When I first started trading, I thought I was doing everything right. I watched the tutorials, downloaded the indicators, studied price action, practiced in demo accounts. I wasn't looking to get rich quick. I was methodical. I was prepared. Or so I thought. But there was one thing I didn't study. One thing no one told me about. My emotions. The first time I lost real money, I told myself it was part of the game. I shook it off, kept going. But the second time, it stung. The third time, it shook me. The fourth time, I started doubting everything, not just my strategy, but myself. I'd sit at my desk with 5 tabs open, heart pounding, palms sweaty, second-guessing every move. Was the market turning? Was I too late? Should I cut now? The candles weren't the problem. The problem was the chaos happening inside my head. Looking back now, I can name the traps I fell into. But back then, I was completely blind to them. I didn't know I was chasing trades out of FOMO. I didn't realize I was overtrading to make myself feel in control. I didn't notice that every time I won, I got cocky, and every time I lost, I got desperate. No one had told me that most trading mistakes aren't logical, they're emotional, and I was making all of them. There was one day I'll never forget. I entered a trade too large. I knew I shouldn't. I felt anxious even as I clicked buy, but I did it anyway, telling myself, I need to make back what I lost last week. Within minutes, the trade reversed. I panicked, closed it early, took a huge loss. Then I jumped into another one, bigger size, just to feel like I could fix it. I lost that one too. I didn't just lose money that day. I lost trust in myself. I closed my laptop and stared at the wall for what felt like hours. Not angry, not sad, just numb. What's wrong with me? Why do I keep doing this? It wasn't the market that beat me. It was me. Here's the thing I didn't understand at the time. I wasn't just failing because of bad decisions. I was failing because I didn't know what I was feeling when I made those decisions. I had never been taught how to recognize the tension in my body, the pressure in my chest, the subtle voice of fear pretending to be logic, the thrill of a win turning into reckless confidence, the quiet desperation that whispered, just one more trade. I had a blind spot, not in the chart, but in myself. That night, after the big loss, I did something different. I didn't look at charts. I didn't backtest. I didn't look for a new strategy. I opened a notebook, and I wrote this. What was I feeling before that trade? What did I feel during it? What changed in me after it ended? I had spent so much time trying to master the market, and 0 time trying to master my own mind. That was the day everything started to change. My rules meant nothing. After that breakdown, I decided to get serious. I printed out a set of trading rules. Clear, precise, logical, entry, stop loss, position sizing, confirmation signals, all there. I taped it next to my monitor like a shrine to discipline. But guess what? When the market moved fast, I ignored the rules. When I got impatient, I took entries early. When I was afraid of missing out, I increased risk without thinking. When I was angry, I doubled down to prove something. The rules were solid, but they were only useful when I was calm, and I was almost never calm. Emotional states override logic. Here's what I slowly began to see. Emotions aren't just background noise. They hijack your decision-making system. They override logic, just like a virus in a program. When you're scared, your brain doesn't care about probability. It wants safety. When you're excited, it doesn't care about risk. It wants more of the high. When you're angry, it wants revenge, not smart execution. And when all 3 hit at once, you become your worst trading enemy. My emotional cost ledger. I started doing something painful but powerful. I began tracking my emotional state before and after every trade. It wasn't fancy, just a few words beside each journal entry. Felt anxious, rushed entry. Bored, traded out of restlessness. Overconfident after win number 2, ignored setup quality. Lost big, revenge traded, regret. At the end of each week, I saw a terrifying pattern. Most of my losses came from a specific emotion, not a setup. Fear, greed, frustration, ego. Every dollar I lost was like a mirror reflecting something inside me. The lie of, just be more disciplined. People online always say, just control your emotions, stick to your rules, be disciplined. Sounds simple, but no one tells you how to do that when you're under pressure. No one tells you how to stay calm when your body is full of adrenaline. No one tells you how to stay patient when you just watched 3 winning trades slip by. No one tells you how to accept a loss without self-judgment. Discipline isn't a button you press. It's a muscle, and I had never trained it. Emotion has a voice. Here's something I never learned from any trading book. Emotion has a voice. It's subtle. It disguises itself as logic. You deserve this win. Go a bit bigger. That setup might never come again. Take it now. Don't be a coward. Get back in. If you don't trade today, you'll fall behind. It sounds reasonable. It sounds like you, but it's not. It's your emotional mind speaking through the mask of logic. And until you can hear it, you can't manage it. The day I didn't react. One day, I saw the perfect setup. Price dipped into a zone I'd marked days before. RSI lined up. Volume spiked. Every box checked. I moved to click buy, and suddenly, I stopped. My stomach felt tight. My jaw was clenched. Am I trading this because it's right? Or because I'm trying to fix something I felt earlier? I realized I was still emotional from a missed trade 30 minutes ago, so I walked away. That was the first time I chose not to react. Not out of fear, but out of awareness. That was the moment I stopped seeing emotions as something to suppress, and started seeing them as data. Data I could learn from. Data I could eventually master. The pause that changed everything. After the day I walked away from that perfect setup, something inside me shifted. For the first time, I realized I don't have to act on every emotion I feel. That seems obvious now, but at the time it was revolutionary. My entire trading life had been one long chain of emotional reactions. I'd feel fear and cut a trade early. I'd feel excitement and size up recklessly. I'd feel bored and click just to feel something. But now, I had discovered something radical, the pause. The pause between emotion and action. The space where awareness lives. Becoming the observer. I began practicing something I call trading as an observer. It started small. Every time I felt a strong urge to click, to chase, to get back in, I would write it down. Not act, just observe. Feeling anxious right now. Tempted to take a setup that doesn't meet criteria. Just had 2 wins. Feeling overly confident. Want to trade again just to keep momentum. Sometimes I would even speak it aloud. This is greed speaking. This is fear trying to trick me. It wasn't about fighting the emotion. It was about seeing it clearly, without judgment. I became less of a trader in those moments and more of a scientist, noticing the pattern beneath the pattern. As I observed, I began noticing something deeper. Certain market situations always triggered the same emotional responses. Breakouts made me anxious, fear of being too late. Pullbacks made me hesitate, fear of catching a falling knife. Sideways markets made me restless, fear of missing opportunity. These were not strategy issues. These were emotional patterns I had carried into the market from elsewhere in life. It was never just about the candles. It was about the stories I told myself about the candles. Using mindfulness in the moment. I started bringing simple mindfulness into my trading sessions. Nothing complex. Just 10 seconds of closing my eyes before opening the charts. 3 deep breaths before placing a trade. A simple question: what am I feeling right now? If I couldn't name the emotion, I didn't trade. If I was in a heightened state, I took a break. These tiny practices created massive space, and in that space, my worst impulses lost their power. Journaling the internal trade. My trade journal evolved. It wasn't just about entry, exit, and result anymore. It included what I was feeling, what I was thinking, what I told myself before clicking, what story I was believing. It became a mirror. and over time, I saw that my emotions had a cycle. Trigger, market movement, news, result, emotion, fear, excitement, doubt, pride, story, I'm not good enough, I need to win, I can't miss this, action, chase, skip, revenge trade, overtrade, result, loss, regret, shame. I was never just trading price, I was trading my inner dialogue, the power of one conscious trade. One day, I placed a trade that aligned with my plan. No emotion, no rush, just clean execution. I sized correctly, I waited for confirmation, I held through minor pullbacks, I closed at target. Nothing dramatic happened, but when I closed that trade, I smiled. Not because I won, but because I had won the internal battle. That feeling was better than profit because it proved I can trade with clarity, I can override chaos. I had spent months trying to control the market. Now I was finally learning to control my presence within it. And presence, I would learn, is the most powerful tool a trader can have. From awareness to structure. After weeks of practicing emotional observation, I realized something important. Awareness alone wasn't enough. I needed structure, something to hold me steady when emotions rose again. Because they always came back. Greed, fear, impatience, doubt. No matter how much I observed, they still showed up. So I asked myself, what if emotional control wasn't about suppression, but about designing my system to work with my emotions, not against them? That was the day I stopped seeing discipline as self-control and started seeing it as self-engineering. Building my emotional rules. I rewrote my trading rules, but this time, I included emotional triggers. For example, if I feel rushed, I take a 3-minute break before clicking anything. If I'm down 2 hours in a day, I shut down and journal. No exceptions. If I win 3 trades in a row, I walk away for 30 minutes. If I notice FOMO, I write down the thought before acting. These weren't restrictions. They were boundaries, designed to protect me from myself. And unlike technical setups, these rules were based on my psychology, not someone else's. Trading like an athlete. I began thinking like a high-performance athlete. No athlete just walks into a competition and goes with the flow. They warm up, they visualize, they stick to a routine, they track data, they train their mental game as seriously as their physical one. So I asked, why wouldn't I do the same as a trader? I created a pre-trade routine. 2-minute breathing, quick review of yesterday's journal, clear decision on what state I'm in, 1-sentence intention. Today, I follow my system, not my emotions. I also created a post-trade debrief. Did I follow my plan? What emotions showed up? How did I respond? Over time, this became muscle memory. My emotional dashboard. I made something I now call my emotional dashboard. It's a simple scale, from 1 to 10. 1 equals calm, clear. 5 equals neutral but scattered. 8+ equals reactive, emotional. Every hour during my session, I write my number. If I'm above 7, I stop trading. It sounds silly, but it saved me from dozens of bad trades. Because when I'm a 9 emotionally, I'm a 2 logically. Replacing motivation with ritual. In the past, I used to rely on motivation to be disciplined. Today, I'll be focused. Today, I won't chase. Today, I'll do better. It never worked. But now, I rely on ritual. I don't wait to feel focused. I follow the same process every day, regardless of how I feel. That's discipline. It's not about being strong, it's about being consistent. And when discipline is built into the system, you don't have to think, you just follow. The power of tracking the invisible. Most traders track P&L. Some track setups, few track emotions. But those who do, they start to see things others never will. I now have months of data showing which emotions lead to poor decisions, what time of day I'm most reactive, how sleep affects my patience, how certain news types trigger anxiety. That data became part of my edge, because while others are fighting the market, I'm managing me. Emotional discipline isn't a bonus skill. It's the foundation that holds your entire strategy together. And like every other part of trading, it can be practiced, it can be built, it can be mastered. What my trading looks like now. Today, my trading sessions are quieter. less dramatic, more deliberate. I sit down with a calm mind, not because I'm never emotional, but because I know what to do when emotion shows up. I follow a clear process: pre-market journal, emotional check-in, system-based entries, no revenge trades, daily stop loss, not just for money, but for mindset. I still lose trades, but I rarely lose my mind, and that's the difference. I don't need to win every trade. This took me years to understand. You don't need to win every trade. You need to win the right ones, and stay mentally sharp enough to wait for them. I stopped overtrading, stopped needing to prove something, stopped thinking every opportunity was the opportunity. Now, I wait. I let trades come to me, and when they do, I execute and detach. It's not cold, it's controlled. I no longer ride the emotional roller coaster. I walk beside it, trading with self-trust. The biggest profit I ever made wasn't a dollar amount. It was the moment I trusted myself again. Not because I became perfect, but because I became present. Now, when I click buy, I'm grounded. When I click sell, I accept the outcome. When I lose, I learn. When I win, I stay humble. That's real growth. Because real trading isn't about being right. It's about being resilient. What I'd tell my younger self. If I could go back in time and speak to myself in those early emotional years, I wouldn't talk about indicators, or entries, or technical setups. I'd say this: learn to feel what you feel, and stay steady anyway. Your success won't come from avoiding emotion, but from building strength within it. The faster you can return to clarity, the longer you'll last in this game. And I'd mean it with everything in me. Your mind is the market. Here's what I know now. Most people study the market endlessly. Few study themselves. But the real market, the one that determines your future, is your own mind. It's the place where doubt becomes hesitation, fear becomes hesitation, greed becomes over-leverage, shame becomes sabotage. And it's the place where clarity becomes consistency, presence becomes power, acceptance becomes peace. If you master your emotions, you master the only market that truly matters. Final word: you don't need to be a genius. You don't need to be emotionless. You don't even need to be experienced. You need to be aware. You need to be disciplined. You need to be honest with yourself. Because in the end, final word: you don't need to be a genius. You don't need to be emotionless. You don't even need to be experienced. You need to be aware. You need to be disciplined. You need to be honest with yourself. Because in the end, the edge isn't out there. The edge is you.